The old space station hung silent in the void, its metal skin pitted and scarred by countless micrometeors. It had been drifting for centuries, maybe longer. No one knew for sure. Zora pressed her face against the viewport of their small scout ship, her four eyes wide with excitement. Her blue skin shimmered in the starlight as she turned to her companion. "Look, Nyx, it's even bigger than we thought." Nyx, her tentacles busy at the controls, spared a glance. Her single large eye blinked slowly. "Yes, it's quite impressive. But remember, we're here to salvage, not sightsee." The two alien girls couldn't have been more different. Zara was all enthusiasm and curiosity, while Nyx was calm and practical. But they made a good team. Their ship glided closer to the station. Up close, they could see the faded markings on its hull. Strange symbols neither of them recognized. "I wonder who built it," Zora mused. Nyx shrugged her gelatinous shoulders. "Probably some long-dead race. There are plenty of those." They found a docking port that still worked and attached their ship. With a hiss of equalizing pressure, the airlock opened. Zora bounded in first, her forelegs easily adapting to the artificial gravity. Nyx followed more slowly, oozing along the floor. "Air's breathable," Zora said, checking her wrist device. "Gravity's a bit strong, though." They moved deeper into the station. Emergency lights flickered on as they passed, responding to movement for the first time in eons. "Look at this tech," Nyx said, her eye roving over dusty control panels. "It's ancient, but there's something familiar about it." Zara nodded. "I was thinking the same thing. It's like, well, it reminds me of stories about Earth." They both fell silent. Earth was a legend, a myth. The homeworld of humans, destroyed 800,000 years ago. No one even knew where it had been. They continued exploring, finding empty crew quarters and long-abandoned labs. Everything was covered in a thick layer of dust. "Not much to salvage," Nyx grumbled. This was a waste of time. But Zara wasn't listening. She had noticed something odd about one of the walls. "Hey, Nyx, does this section look different to you?" Nyx oozed over. "You're right. The metal's slightly newer here." Zara ran her hands over the wall, feeling for seams. Suddenly, there was a click, and a hidden door slid open. "Whoa," Zara breathed. Before them was a vast chamber, filled with row upon row of sleek metal pods. Each was about the size of a person, connected to a central power source that still hummed with energy. "What are they?" Zara asked, approaching the nearest pod. She wiped away the frost on its small window and peered inside. She jumped back with a yelp. "There's someone in there." Nyx quickly glided to her side. "Impossible. No one could survive this long." But as they moved from pod to pod, wiping away the frost, they saw the same thing in each one. Bodies, perfectly preserved. "They're in some kind of suspended animation," Nyx said, her voice filled with awe. "But who are they?" Zara's hands shook as she cleaned off one pod completely. The figure inside was undeniably bipedal, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head covered in fur. "Nyx," she whispered, I think these are humans." Nyx's eye widened in shock. "But that's not possible. Humans went extinct when Earth was destroyed. Everyone knows that." "Everyone was wrong," Zara said. She was already examining the pod's control panel. "Look, there's information here. This one contains a female, age 25 at time of stasis. Name, Sophia." They stood in stunned silence, the magnitude of their discovery sinking in. "We have to wake them up," Zara said finally. Nyx rippled with alarm. "Are you crazy? We don't know anything about them. They could be dangerous." "They're people, Nyx. People everyone thought were gone forever. We can't just leave them here." Nyx wavered, her practical nature warring with her conscience. Finally, she sighed. "Fine, but just one. And we'll be ready if anything goes wrong." Zara nodded and turned back to Sophia's pod. Her fingers hovered over the controls. Ready? Nyx extended a tentacle, wrapping it around Zora's hand. Together, they pressed the button. The pod hissed and began to open. Frost sublimated into mist, swirling around them. Slowly, the lid lifted. Inside, the human woman took a deep, shuddering breath. Her eyes fluttered open, revealing irises of deep brown. She looked up at Zara and Nyx, confusion giving way to shock. Where am I? Sophia asked, her voice hoarse from disuse. What are you? Zara and Nyx exchanged glances. How do you tell someone that everything they knew is gone, that their entire species was thought extinct, that 800,000 years have passed? Zara took a deep breath. It's a long story, she said gently. But you're safe now, and you're not alone. As Sophia struggled to sit up, Zara and Nyx helped her. Around them, hundreds of pods held hundreds more humans, waiting to be awakened into a universe that had long forgotten them. The adventure was just beginning. Part 2. Awakening the First Human. Sophia's brown eyes darted between Zara and Nyx, wide with a mix of fear and wonder. She tried to sit up, but her muscles, weak from centuries of disuse, failed her. Zara quickly moved to support her. Easy there, Zara said softly, her 4 eyes blinking in sync. You've been asleep for a very long time. Sophia's gaze fixed on Zara's blue skin, then shifted to Nyx's gelatinous form. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Water, Nyx said, her single eye narrowing in thought. She probably needs water. Zara nodded and pulled out a flask from her pack. She held it to Sophia's lips, who drank greedily. Thank you, Sophia said, her voice still rough but stronger. Who? What are you? I'm Zara, the blue-skinned alien said, and this is Nyx. We're not from around here. Sophia's eyes widened further. Aliens? Real aliens? She looked around the chamber, recognition dawning on her face. This is the Ark. We actually did it. The Ark? Nyx asked, oozing closer. Is that what this station is called? Sophia nodded slowly. Yes, it was humanity's last hope. When we realized Earth was doomed, we built this, a way to preserve some of us. Her face suddenly crumpled. Earth. Is it really? Zara and Nyx exchanged glances. I'm sorry, Zara said gently. Earth was destroyed a long time ago. Sophia closed her eyes, tears leaking out despite her best efforts. Even though she had known it was coming, the finality of it hit her hard. How long? She whispered. Nyx's gelatinous form rippled uncomfortably. According to our historical records, about 800,000 years. Sophia's eyes snapped open. 800,000 years. That's impossible. The Ark wasn't designed to last nearly that long. And yet, here you are, Zara said, gesturing to the rows of pods around them. You and hundreds of others, preserved perfectly. Sophia struggled to process this information. Her mind reeled with the implications. Everything and everyone she had ever known was gone, turned to dust ages ago. The others, she said suddenly, trying to stand. We need to wake them up too. Zara gently pushed her back down. Not yet. We need to be careful. Your pod's power was almost depleted. If we wake everyone at once, we might not have enough energy to keep everyone stable. Sophia reluctantly nodded, seeing the logic. You're right. We need a plan. As Sophia's strength slowly returned, Zara and Nyx filled her in on the current state of the galaxy. Sophia listened with growing amazement as they described the hundreds of alien species that now populated the stars, the incredible technologies they had developed, and the complex political landscape of interstellar civilization. And humans? Sophia asked. What do your people know about us? Nyx's eye blinked slowly. Not much, I'm afraid. You're considered a legendary species. Most believe you went extinct when Earth was destroyed. Sophia's face hardened with determination. Well, they're wrong. We're still here, and we have a lot to offer. She turned to look at the other pods. Each person here was chosen for their skills, their knowledge. We have scientists, engineers, artists, leaders, the best humanity had to offer. Zara's 4 eyes widened with excitement. That's amazing. Think of all the lost knowledge you could bring back. But Nyx was more cautious. It also means you could be seen as a threat. Not everyone will be happy to see humans return. Sophia nodded grimly. We suspected as much. It's why the Ark was hidden. But we can't stay here forever. We need to find a way to integrate into this new galaxy. As they talked, Sophia's strength continued to return. Soon, she was able to stand and walk around the chamber, examining the other pods. We should wake up Dr. Chen next, she said, pointing to a nearby pod. She's our lead scientist. She'll know how to safely revive the others. Zara and Nyx agreed, and together they began the process of awakening the second human. As Dr. Chen's pod hissed open, Sophia turned to her new alien friends. Thank you, she said earnestly, for finding us, for giving humanity a second chance. Zora's blue skin flushed a deeper shade. We're glad we found you too. I have a feeling this is the start of something amazing. Nyx's gelatinous form rippled in what might have been a shrug. Let's just hope the rest of the galaxy agrees. As Dr. Chen took her first breath in 800,000 years, the small group stood together, united in their determination to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in centuries, humanity had hope. Dr. Chen sat on the edge of her cryopod, her short black hair mussed from centuries of sleep. Her keen eyes darted between Sophia, Zara, and Nyx as she absorbed the incredible situation. 800,000 years, she muttered, shaking her head. The implications are staggering. Sophia nodded, still struggling with the concept herself. Zara and Nyx have been filling me in on what the galaxy looks like now. It's beyond anything we could have imagined. Zara stepped forward, her blue skin shimmering under the station's lights. Perhaps I could give you both an overview. There's so much to cover. Please, Dr. Chen said, leaning forward with interest. Zara began to explain, her 4 eyes blinking in excitement. There are now over 500 known sentient species spread across our galaxy. Some, like my people, evolved naturally. Others were uplifted by more advanced races. Uplifted? Sophia asked. Helped to evolve faster, Nyx clarified, her gelatinous form rippling. It's a controversial practice. Zara continued. Most species belong to the Galactic Confederation, a loose alliance that governs interstellar relations. But there are independent worlds too, and even a few small empires that resist joining. Dr. Chen's brow furrowed. And where do your species fit in this confederation? My people, the Azurians, are respected diplomats, Zara said proudly. We help mediate disputes between other races. Nyx's single eye blinked slowly. My kind, the Volux, prefer to keep to ourselves. We're known for our scientific advancements, but we don't share them widely. Sophia and Dr. Chen exchanged glances. It was clear that galactic politics were complex. What about technology? Dr. Chen asked eagerly. How far has it advanced? Zora's eyes sparkled. Oh, it's incredible. We have ships that can cross the galaxy in weeks. There are worlds enclosed in artificial shells to maximize living space. Some species have even begun to explore other dimensions. Sophia whistled low. That's amazing. But what about humans? What do people know about us? The excitement in Zora's eyes dimmed a bit. Well, humans are considered a legendary species. Most believe you went extinct when Earth was destroyed. Your achievements are still celebrated, though. Celebrated? Dr. Chen asked, surprised. Nyx's form rippled in what might have been a nod. Many of our current technologies have their roots in human innovations. Your adaptability and creativity are still admired. Sophia stood up, pacing the room. So we're not entirely forgotten. That's something, at least. There's more, Zara said hesitantly. Some of the more warlike species use stories of humanity to scare their children. They paint you as dangerous conquerors. Dr. Chen's face fell. I see. So not all our legacy is positive. Nyx oozed closer, her voice gentle. Every species has a complex history. What matters is what you do now. Sophia nodded firmly. She's right. We have a chance to show the galaxy who we really are. As they talked, Dr. Chen had been examining one of the nearby control panels. Suddenly, she gasped. This is incredible. The stasis technology we developed. It's far beyond what should have been possible in our time. Zora peered at the panel curiously. What do you mean? Dr. Chen's fingers flew over the controls. These pods weren't just preserving our bodies. They were actively repairing cellular damage, updating our brain patterns with new information. It's like we've been slowly evolving while we slept. Sophia's eyes widened. Are you saying we might have abilities we didn't have before? It's possible, Dr. Chen said, her voice filled with wonder. We'll need to run tests to be sure. Nyx's eye narrowed thoughtfully. If that's true, it could explain how you survived for so long. And it might make you very interesting to certain parties in the Confederation. Zara nodded solemnly. She's right. If humans have developed unique abilities, some might see you as a resource to be exploited. Others might view you as a threat. Sophia's jaw set determinedly. Then we'll need to be careful about how we reintroduce ourselves to the galaxy. We'll wake a few more of our people, then make a plan. Dr. Chen agreed. We should choose carefully. We'll need diplomats, scientists, and maybe a few soldiers, just in case. As they began to discuss who to wake next, Zara and Nyx exchanged glances. They had come looking for salvage, but had instead found themselves in the middle of a potentially galaxy-changing event. The return of humanity was about to shake the foundations of galactic society. Whether that would be for better or worse remained to be seen. The control room of the Ark hummed with activity. Over the past few hours, Sophia and Dr. Chen had awakened 5 more humans from cryo sleep. Each one brought a unique set of skills that would be crucial for their survival. Commander Jackson, a tall woman with close-cropped gray hair, stood at the center of the room. Her military training was evident in her posture as she addressed the group. All right, people. We've got a lot to do and not much time to do it. Our first priority is securing this station and assessing our resources. Dr. Chen nodded, her fingers flying over a nearby console. I've been running diagnostics. Most of our systems are operational, but power is a concern. We got maybe a week before we need to find a new energy source. Zara, who had been watching with fascination, spoke up. There's a trading outpost about 2 light years from here. We might be able to get supplies there. Commander Jackson turned to her, eyes narrowing. And how do you suggest we do that? We can't exactly walk in and say, hello, we're the long-lost humans. Can we borrow a cup of antimatter? Nyx's gelatinous form rippled with what might have been amusement. She has a point. Your sudden appearance would cause quite a stir. Sophia, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. What if we didn't announce ourselves? Zara, Nyx, could you act as our intermediaries? The 2 aliens exchanged glances. It's possible, Zara said slowly, but it would be risky. If anyone found out we were hiding humans, we'd be in big trouble, Nyx finished. Dr. Lee, a wiry man with a shock of white hair, had been tinkering with a small device. He looked up, eyes bright with excitement. I might have a solution. This is a portable holographic disguise. We developed it just before. Well before. With some updates, we could use it to blend in. Commander Jackson nodded approvingly. Good thinking, Lee. Get on that right away. As the group continued to discuss their plans, a young woman named Aisha, their communications expert, suddenly called out from her station. Guys, we've got a problem. I'm picking up a signal. Someone's scanning us. The room fell silent. Commander Jackson strode over to Aisha's console. Can they detect the cryopods? Aisha shook her head, her dark curls bouncing. I don't think so. Our shielding is holding, but they know the station is here, and that it's active. We need to move faster, Sophia said, her voice tense. If word gets out about this station, we'll be swarmed by scavengers and curiosity seekers, Nix finished grimly. Commander Jackson's face hardened with resolve. All right, new plan. Dr. Lee, you and Dr. Chen focus on getting those disguises working. Aisha, keep monitoring those scans. Try to mask our energy signature if you can. She turned to Sophia. You and I will work on waking up more of our people. We need all hands on deck. Zara stepped forward, her blue skin shimmering with determination. What about us? How can we help? Commander Jackson studied the alien for a moment, then nodded. We need information. Everything you can tell us about nearby systems, common alien physiology, anything that might help us blend in. As the humans and aliens dispersed to their tasks, Sophia pulled Zara aside. There's something else we need to consider, she said in a low voice. If humans have evolved during our sleep like Dr. Chen suspects, we might have abilities we don't understand yet. We need to be careful. Zara's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. You're right. If those abilities manifested at the wrong time, it could blow our cover, Sophia finished. Or worse. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner, Nix was having a similar conversation with Dr. Chen. There's something you should know, the gelatinous alien said hesitantly. There are factions in the galaxy that have been searching for signs of humanity for centuries. Dr. Chen's eyes widened. Why? Nix's single eye darted around, as if checking for eavesdroppers. Some believe humans held the key to unlocking immense power. Others fear your return could upset the balance of the galaxy. Dr. Chen absorbed this information, her mind racing. We'll have to be even more careful than we thought. As the hours ticked by, the Ark buzzed with frantic activity. Humans were awakened, plans were made and discarded, and tensions ran high. But underneath the stress and fear, there was a current of excitement. Humanity was about to re-enter a galaxy that had long thought them extinct. And whether the galaxy was ready or not, things were about to change. The Ark's warning sirens blared, jolting everyone into action. Aisha's voice crackled over the intercom, tense and urgent. Multiple ships approaching. They're not responding to hails. Commander Jackson sprinted to the control room, Sophia and Zara close behind. The main screen showed several sleek, predatory-looking vessels closing in fast. Scavengers. Nix oozed into the room, her gelatinous form rippling with agitation. They must have detected our power signature. Jackson's face hardened. Battle stations. Everyone. Dr. Lee, are those disguises ready? Lee burst in, his white hair wild. They're operational, but untested. They'll have to do, Jackson said grimly. She turned to Sophia. Wake up our security team. We might need to fight our way out of this. As Sophia rushed to the Cryo chamber, the first impacts rocked the station. The scavengers were trying to force their way in. In the docking bay, a team of humans led by a burly man named Skeet Ortiz prepared for combat. They wore the holographic disguises, appearing as a motley crew of different alien species. Remember, Ortiz growled, we're just ordinary scavengers defending our find. Don't do anything a human would do. The irony of his words was lost as the docking bay doors burst open. A group of real scavengers poured in, a mix of reptilian, insectoid, and even gaseous beings. They brandished an assortment of energy weapons and cruel-looking blades. What followed was chaos. The humans, despite their 800,000-year nap, found their combat training kicking in. They fought with a ferocity that surprised even themselves. Meanwhile, in the control room, Zara and Nix worked frantically with Dr. Chen to stabilize the station's failing systems. Suddenly, Chen gasped. The power fluctuations, they're affecting the cryopods. If we don't do something, we could lose everyone still in stasis. Jackson, coordinating the defense, spun around. What are our options? Chen's fingers flew over the controls. We need to reroute power from non-essential systems, but that would leave us defenseless. It was an impossible choice. Save their sleeping comrades or protect those already awake. Suddenly, Sophia's voice came over the comm. I've got an idea. But you're not going to like it. Before anyone could respond, Sophia burst into the docking bay. She was without a disguise, her human features plain for all to see. The fighting ground to a halt as both sides stared in shock. Enough. Sophia's voice boomed with an authority that seemed to shake the very walls. The scavengers, to everyone's surprise, lowered their weapons. One of them, a tall, mantis-like being, stepped forward. Impossible, it clicked. The legends, they're true. Sophia stood tall, her eyes glowing with an inner light. I am Sophia of Earth. We have slept for 800,000 years, and now we've returned. This station and all within it are under our protection. A ripple of shock went through the scavengers. Some fell to their knees, while others backed away in fear. The mantis being bowed low. Forgive us, ancient ones. We did not know. As quickly as it had begun, the attack was over. The scavengers retreated, spreading the word of humanity's return. Back in the control room, everyone stared at Sophia in awe. Her eyes had returned to normal, but there was a new strength in her bearing. How? How did you do that? Zara asked, her 4 eyes wide with wonder. Sophia shook her head, looking as surprised as everyone else. I don't know. It just happened. Dr. Chen was already scanning Sophia with a handheld device. It's as we suspected. You've evolved, Sophia. All of us have. We're not the same humans who went into stasis. Commander Jackson stepped forward, her face grave. This changes everything. If word of this gets out. Nexus form rippled anxiously. It already has. Those scavengers will spread the story across the galaxy. The factions I warned you about. They'll be coming. As the implications sank in, a tense silence fell over the group. They had survived their first confrontation, but it was clear that their greatest challenges lay ahead. Sophia looked around at her fellow humans and their alien allies. Then we'll face them together. Humanity is back, and we've got 800,000 years of catching up to do. The Ark hummed around them, a beacon of hope and a harbinger of change in a galaxy unprepared for humanity's return. The Ark's control room buzzed with frantic activity. It had been only hours since the scavenger attack, but already the situation had become dire. Multiple ships detected entering the system, Aisha reported, her eyes glued to the scanners. Big ones, probably military. Commander Jackson's face was grim. How long do we have? 2 hours, maybe less, Aisha replied. Dr. Chen looked up from her console, her face pale. That's not enough time to wake everyone up safely. A heavy silence fell over the room. They had over 1,000 humans still in Cryo sleep, their pods not designed for quick revival. Sophia, who had been quiet since her display of newfound powers, suddenly spoke up. What if we don't wake them up? What if we take the whole Ark? Everyone stared at her. Nyx's gelatinous form rippled in what might have been a laugh. The whole station. It's not exactly built for speed. No, Sophia agreed, but it was built to last. And to hide. She turned to Dr. Lee. The stealth technology we were working on before, is it still viable? Lee's eyes widened in understanding. The phase shift drive. It was theoretical, but he rushed to a nearby console, fingers flying over the keys. Yes, with some modifications, we might be able to make it work. Commander Jackson leaned in. Explain. Quickly. Lee spoke rapidly, excitement overriding his usual stammer. The phase shift drive was designed to move objects slightly out of sync with normal spacetime. In theory, it could make us undetectable and allow us to move through solid matter. Zora's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. That's That's beyond anything we have now. Are you sure it's possible? Dr. Chen joined Li at the console, with our evolved intellects, and maybe a bit of Sophia's new abilities. Yes, I think we can do it. Jackson nodded sharply. All right, we have a plan. Everyone, to your stations. We're going to disappear right under their noses. The next 2 hours were a whirlwind of activity. Humans and aliens worked side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of the common goal. Dr. Li and Dr. Chen worked on the phase shift drive, their minds operating at speeds that would have been impossible for their pre-stasis selves. Sophia stood with them, channeling her mysterious new energy into the systems when needed. Zara and Nyx coordinated with Aisha, using their knowledge of current galactic technology to help mask the Orcs' energy signature. Changed. Ortiz and his team prepared for the worst, ready to defend the station if their plan failed. As the clock ticked down, tension in the control room reached a fever pitch. The military ships were now visible on their screens, massive and menacing. They're hailing us, Aisha reported. Jackson took a deep breath. Ignore it. Are we ready? Li looked up from his console, sweat beading on his forehead. As ready as we'll ever be. The phase shift drive is online, but we've only got one shot at this. It'll have to do, Jackson said. She looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. Whatever happens next, I want you all to know it's been an honor. Sophia stepped forward, placing her hand on the main control panel. As she did, a soft glow spread from her fingers, suffusing the entire station. Now, Dr. Li, she said quietly. Li hit the activation sequence. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a sound like reality itself was tearing the arc, shifted. The view on their screens changed. The approaching ships, the nearby asteroids, even the distant stars all became translucent, as if viewed through frosted glass. It worked, Chen exclaimed. We're out of phase with normal space-time. Indeed, on the military ship scanners, the arc had simply vanished. Full power to engines, Jackson ordered. Let's get out of here. The arc began to move, passing through solid asteroids as if they were no more substantial than fog. They accelerated, pushing the ancient station to speeds it was never designed for. As they left the system behind, a cheer went up in the control room. They had done it. They had escaped. But their journey was far from over. They were alive and free, but also alone in a galaxy that had forgotten them. And somewhere out there, powerful factions were now aware of their existence. Sophia looked out at the strangely muted stars. Where do we go now? She asked softly. Jackson put a hand on her shoulder. We find a new home. And then we show the galaxy what humanity can really do. The Ark sped on, carrying its precious cargo of sleeping humans and newfound allies into an uncertain but exciting future. The Ark drifted silently through the void, its phase shift drive humming softly. Inside, the awakened humans and their alien allies gathered in the main hall, their faces a mix of exhaustion and hope. Commander Jackson stood at the front, her voice carrying across the room. We've traveled for 3 weeks. We're far from any known civilizations. It's time to find a new home. Dr. Chen stepped forward, activating a holographic display. We've detected a suitable planet in a nearby system. Breathable atmosphere, Earth-like gravity, abundant resources. Excited murmurs rippled through the crowd. Sophia, standing near the back with Zara and Nyx, felt a surge of emotion. A new Earth. A new beginning. What about the locals? Kesh, Ortiz asked, ever cautious. Nyx's gelatinous form rippled. Our scans show no signs of advanced civilization, but there is life. Primitive, but evolving. A hush fell over the room. The implications were clear. They could shape this world, guide its development. But should they? Sophia spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. We have a responsibility. To this planet, to its life, and to ourselves. We can't repeat the mistakes of our past. Jackson nodded. Agreed. We'll establish a settlement, but with minimal impact. Dr. Lee, how are we doing on waking the others? Lee, looking more rested than he had in weeks, smiled. We've perfected the revival process. We can wake everyone safely now. Good, Jackson said. We'll need every skill, every perspective. As the meeting continued, plans were made. They would land the Ark, using its structure as the foundation for their first city. They would wake their people in stages, allowing each group to acclimate before reviving more. Weeks turned into months. The planet, which they named Novaterra, slowly became home. The first city, Hope, grew around the Ark. Fields were planted, buildings raised, and a new society began to take shape. Sophia stood on a hill overlooking Hope, watching the sunset. Zara and Nix joined her, their unlikely friendship a symbol of the new era. It's beautiful, Zara said, her 4 eyes taking in the view. Sophia nodded. It is, but I can't help thinking about the galaxy out there. They know we're back now. What will happen when they find us? Nex's form shimmered thoughtfully. Some will fear you, others will seek to learn from you. Your return has already begun to change things. As if on cue, Aisha's voice came over their communicators. We're picking up a transmission. It's from the Galactic Confederation. They rushed to the communications center. A holographic figure flickered into view. A being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting. Greetings, humans of Earth, the being said, its voice resonating strangely. We are the Council of Elders. Your return has sparked great debate among our people. Commander Jackson stepped forward. We come in peace. We seek only to rebuild, to find our place in this new galaxy. The being seemed to consider this. Your species was known for its potential for both great good and great destruction. We have watched your actions since your reemergence. Your choices on Novaterra have intrigued us. Sophia felt a glimmer of hope. We've learned from our history. We want to do better this time. Perhaps, the being said, we propose an exchange. Share your knowledge, your unique perspectives. In return, we offer you protection and a place in the Confederation. The humans exchanged glances. It was more than they could have hoped for. Jackson nodded. We accept. With conditions. Our world remains our own, and we retain the right to make our own choices. Agreed, the being said. Welcome back to the galactic community, humans of Earth. As the transmission ended, a cheer went up. Humans hugged each other and their alien friends. They had done it. They had found their place in this new universe. Sophia looked around at the joy on every face. They had so much to learn, so much to share, and they had a second chance to get it right. Outside, the twin moons of Novaterra rose over Hope. A new chapter in human history had begun, and this time they wouldn't face it alone. The future, with all its challenges and opportunities, awaited. Humanity was ready.